It's the Kaylie and Carol show with Kaylie and Carol. We are back with another episode. Today we wanted to get right into life and when life feels like it's falling apart. Everybody has, and I keep hearing that so much, like life just keeps happening and life just keeps going and we don't catch a break. And like I keep hearing all of these things from the people around me. I don't know if you have, but so we just wanted to talk about like life and what to do when it feels like it's falling apart, but more importantly, how to move through it, because it is true that life really never stops happening. So talking a little bit about like surrender, what is surrendering, how do you do it, especially if you're someone that has a hard time with it. I feel like I have a hard time with surrendering sometimes, just because I am someone who likes to control things a little bit more, have plans figured out. And so when things come up that force me to surrender, it's hard and I try to resist it as long as I can.
But it's so good because on the other side of it, didn't you ever surrender to something almost because you had to?
Well, that's what I
or
was
forced
yeah.
to. But then on the other side of it, you're like either, not that it wasn't so bad, but you're like, I spent so much energy resisting
and forcing
and it was going to happen anyway. And then, yeah.
But that's what I mean. And I almost feel like a lot of people get to that point of like feeling like they're just forced to like surrender and move through it. But I also feel like it is a big part of life. Like that's what it teaches us to keep going. Like, okay, this happened, now what? Because we have to keep going. So what am I going to do, with like the cards that I've been dealt, and how to move through that instead of making yourself sick, stuck where you are, or resisting it, or in that way. Because when you resist things in your life that are trying to shift or change, it really can start to affect you in so many other ways.
I personally I feel like I've been stuck in my personal life for like 3 years now, even though there has been a lot of growth, so not stuck entirely,
Yeah.
but I come back to. So I'm going through a separation. Me and my husband have been separated for almost 3 years, I want to say. And it's been like very hard. And that's just one piece of it. But I also have recently, because a lot of symptoms were mirroring the stroke from 2010 that I had. And I had an MRI and stuff, and they recently found a meningioma. It's typically a benign brain tumor, but it's in a very important place, they told me. And short story is they say I have to have surgery by the end of the summer. So I feel like it's one thing after another, but it also, like, metaphorically, I think of where it is in my brain, decision making, personality, stress. Like, I was telling the doctors, well, I have been under a ton of stress, and, kept going back to saying that's what it is. And, which it very well could be too. But anyway, just the metaphorical, what am I saying? Example of like a block, right where I feel stuck in moving forward, or
and that's where like the energy manifested. And I feel like when we say that, it's not obviously to blame yourself. I don't know, like I feel like it's so easy for people to get stuck in that, especially with very serious physical ailments. But it's not even like, it's not blame at all. It's just to see like what is asking to be shifted in this moment. Because the reality is that if this wasn't supposed to happen, it wouldn't have happened. You were meant to go through this experience just like other people who go through other really hard and serious things. their souls were meant to go through that, as hard and difficult and messed up as, we can all feel about it sometimes.
And the difference for me, as I sit here and just think about what I'm sharing, in 2010, when I had it was called a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage. So when I had that stroke, I was out at a party and it just happened to me. And then I was rushed to the hospital, and the series of events, happened. My older brother, who is now passed, he came to the hospital with the book The Secret, and he just kept me in such a high, uplifted mood. I remember having like a cold rag on my head and terrible headache, but I didn't even care, or it's almost like I didn't even feel pain, because he pushed me around the hospital and all this stuff. So now, as I sit in this diagnose or whatever it is, I feel more stuck.
Yeah.
Because it didn't just happen and then I dealt with it. Now I have time to think about it. I have time to go back in my head. I have time to be in fear, all of that stuff. And I'm like, damn it. But it's interesting now to see or compare, even in this moment. Like, I never thought about that till we started talking. And maybe there's something in that I could surrender to. Because when I look back at that experience, it was the best experience of my life. And people would be like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, oh no, don't be sorry. Yeah. Like, that was like my, my eyes were wide open. So it's interesting living that life now for 15 years after the stroke, that now hear something very similar, except they're actually cutting my head open. Yeah, so I just thought about that.
I feel like, too, because you said something about, like, you have time to, like, go back and this and that, but I almost feel like that's not even helpful.
Possible, really.
Because, like, really, what, like, going back and thinking, like, oh, I should have done this, I could have done this differently.
No, I meant going back, seeing going into the feelings of how, what a beautiful experience it was. Because was blindsided, but I didn't know I was having gonna have a stroke. So that happened, where now I sit in the knowing. Yeah. And what about this? What if this happens? What if this? What if this? Instead of leaning into that beautiful experience that I had. You have to have it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what could or can't come, but then I have my faith and I have my connection that.
But the reality, too, is, like, as much as it is amazing that you connect to the belief that the stroke was a really beautiful experience, it's almost, so do you feel like you're trying to find that in this now and, like, jump to that?
Well, I just came to it right now in this moment. That's what I'm saying.
But that's what I mean. And at the time we're recording this, it's the Libra full moon, and we just did a class on it yesterday. Oh, we weren't there. But something that's coming up for everybody, just one of the little things, is this feeling of, like, anger, and how anger is the first emotion we can feel because it protects us. It protects our heart. That connects to the Libra energy. But when you go deeper into that, it's like, what am I being protected of? I was just saying that with this, like, the reality is that for so many people, like, it's hard to get to that space to be grateful and to see, that what's happening to you is a beautiful experience. And I don't think we're trying to tell you that what's happening to you right now is a beautiful experience, but I feel like there is a little comfort in being open to the perspective that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you might be able to get to that place when this part of your life, this journey, whatever is going on for you, is over with, and you've had time and space from it and time to heal, that you'll be able to get to that space no matter, and it could take a year, it could take 2 months, but we're not saying right now, like, just find a way to make it good and be positive. And
no, but that's what I was saying, how
Yeah.
I can go back to that experience that I did have, even though it was different because it happened and then I had a good experience.
Yeah.
And I was saying how sitting in this, the knowing that something's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
But I could go back to that experience and see all the good. Like I currently have it with my connection. So I don't do it,
Yeah.
but I'm saying now talking about it, I go in and out of it,
Yeah.
where I go into it like, I know this is on my path. I know that this is going to make me stronger. I'm going to literally let go of some stuff. So I'm going into it. I have waves of really going into that, I guess you could say, positive mindset, or even my new belief surrounding all of it. But I also have the whole other side of where I do, whether it's feel sorry for myself, feel alone, feel in fear, and stuff like that.
I think too, it's really beautiful how you were talking about like the waves, and I feel like going
That's what I
through
was
the
just gonna
waves
say.
of it.
I think normalizing the ebb and
Yes.
flows, the ups and downs, because that is part of everyone's journey, I think. Acceptance isn't just I accept it and move on. I suppose it could be, but I think it's not thinking that you're not doing it right or you backtracked when you're feeling low again in a scary situation.
And I feel like that is what surrender is, and that is what we kind of wanted to get to with this conversation, is understanding that, like, it's not to, like, feel good all the time, and to, when you have these low moments, to think, like, or to force yourself out of it, because we always preach to meet yourself where you're at. And I feel like that's what surrender is wherever you're at.
But it does take a lot out of you when you're in the lows, because you still have to show up as a mom. Not as a as a mom, as a grandmother, as a a medium, as a hairstylist. So you still have to show up in your life, and sometimes it could take over your feelings. So you have to maybe somehow acknowledge it. Well, obviously, put it on a shelf, and then you can't always be in that either.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is like that's even surrendering to what showing up looks like, because showing up one day could look different than showing up another day, but both days, you're doing what you can. Whether one day it looks like more and one day it looks like less, it's still who you are in that day through the waves. And so that I feel like is surrender, letting go of these expectations of what showing up looks like every single day, because it's going to be different, especially if you're going through something in life that you feel like is a really hard or chaotic journey for you. Like, it's just about, and that's where all of it feels like it's just this like pressure that we put on ourselves, or like these expectations that we make up in our heads about like what things need to look like and how things need to go to have a good day, or like all of these little things that I feel like if we can just recognize, like, wait, this is just me putting this onto the situation. Like, oh, I wasn't able to get up and clean the house today. I'm a horrible mom.
And I think what can help, because it, again, in this moment, talking about it, what could help is like a friend or a sibling, or, someone you talk to, coming up with the same energy, like, didn't clean my house, or I'm a loser, like the same energy. I think we can all relate to one another in that way. And what would we say to them? I always say that in my head, like, what would I tell? I don't think that of people. I have so much grace and so much compassion and so much understanding, but sometimes when it's us, so always, like, I guess remembering, like, what would you say to someone you love?
That came up in the full moon class too, but I just said that to somebody that I was talking with. I was like, well, like, would you say that to your daughter? Or whatever she was saying, I was like, would you say that to your daughter? And she was like, no. And I was like, okay, see? But, and I feel like some people think it's, like, cheesy, but when you really think about it, like,
When
I
you
feel
really
like it's
think
so
about it.
true, because we wouldn't talk to our closest loved ones the way that we talk to ourselves.
Not just talk, but actually believe it.
Yeah.
You know, like, do you believe that you were, you know, she was lazy because she wanted, you know, she was busy? Once you hear her story, whatever it may be, do you believe she was this or that? You know, and yeah.
And that's where it comes back to, like, trying to understand yourself as if you were separate from yourself. Like, seeing you as, they always hear, like, you are not your body. So trying to step into the perspective of your higher self and seeing you as just, like, a human who is here, like any other loved one that you have, trying to create, like, that detachment for just a moment to see yourself clearly. Without the expectations, without the pressure of life and everything going on. Like, all of these little things are what help make surrendering possible and happen. Whereas if we get stuck in those certain feelings or expectations or resistance to, well, it was supposed to be like this, it was supposed to be like this, or I don't want this, like, this can't happen, I'm not going to make it through this, whatever story we're telling ourselves, that's what makes us feel stuck. And that's okay, like, it's going to happen, but those are just the waves. So it's like, again, it just goes back to meet yourself where you're at, like, understand yourself, and, like...
But I do believe, like, if you're in it for longer than, you know, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable when you're in it.
It's always probably uncomfortable.
But when you're in it for, I could say, you know, I tend to, or I feel like I have more of the, I don't know, the lows as of late. But I think really something small to keep in mind is changing your environment and moving your energy, really just moving your energy. I went for a walk. I've been trying to go for a walk every day, and you know, the first time around is like, okay, here I am, like, or whatever. Second time, you're starting to feel good, and then you're consciously breathing and you're listening to the birds, and but just doing that, and then you just feel, I think always walking helps the state, but changing your energy, you know, the state of your energy, especially if you feel too low or down too low. And sometimes I tell people, just turn on, like, well, you know, I've said Madonna many times, but your favorite music that you could dance to, and just kind of, like, keep in mind, like, that there are tools around when you feel like you're staying stuck too long.
And recognizing, you said this a couple minutes ago, how helpful, like, community can be, or just recognizing, like, there are other people that go through maybe not the same thing, but similar things, or just things that are just as hard for their reality as what you're going through is as hard in your reality. And I was just talking about this with someone, how you just notice, like, between human beings, like, I believe so deeply how connected we all are energetically, and so you can see from, like, a bird's eye view that these just little, like, connections or like things that we all go through in our own ways, but these feelings always seem to come up, and they always seem to, like, repeat with this person and this person. And I feel like one of them is going right to feeling so alone in the midst of, like, harder chaos or situations. Like, when life happens, it's so easy to feel like, well, it's just me here, I'm the only one going through this. And as much as it could feel like that, not to invalidate that, but to remind you, like, we all have life going on. We all feel like life isn't stopping, and we're getting forced and pushed through certain things, which can be a little comforting and just seeing where now in your real life you have people that you can lean on. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be one person. It could be your dog. It could be anybody who can give you that space to just be where you're at. I feel like can help you move through the lows or the situations that are coming up.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier when I was getting ready, because I have been stuck on my thoughts for a while now. So, and they're not all low. There's some good ones in there. But anyway, so I'm getting ready and I was thinking about it. I'm like, maybe I should go like to a hospital and help the sick or something. Maybe because I heard like, you know, growing up, I always heard, I don't know if everyone always heard, there's always someone better off. Or worse off than you. There's always someone worse off than you. So I'm getting ready thinking of that. Well, maybe I should go to a hospital. Maybe I should do something like that. And then I heard your words saying, no, be with yourself. This is where you need to be. This is what's going on with you right now. And this is your worst right now. And don't distract from it. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, so I heard you. So I was like, okay, so that's interesting. But I'm sure there's a balance.
That's what I was going to say.
With that, because, you know, my job is service to others. So I think I already do that naturally, and you know, from my job that maybe that would be enough, and the little time, because I am busy, the little time I have should be focused all on my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought about that, and I don't think I would have thought of that if I didn't have your words in my head, because like I said, I was brought up with like, there's always someone worse off than you. There's always like, so it's almost like you can't complain or you can't feel what you need to feel for you. And I think that's important too, for sure, because it was so easy for me to you know, I'm aware, so I could think, yeah.
Well, that's where I feel like it does come down to balance, and balance is going to look different from everyone. And like I feel like too, like you're the only one that can know. Like you have to quiet your mind enough to figure out, what are you really needing? Are you needing to let yourself like feel sorry for yourself for a little bit, because that's okay? But have you been in that space for too long, and now it's really starting to make you feel stuck or worse, and you
Sick.
are feeling like you need a change of perspective, and maybe there is something you can choose to see or be grateful for in this situation. Like, no one else can tell you what you're needing. You have to be open and vulnerable enough with yourself to like be honest with yourself to figure that out.
And I think because I have spent a lot of time with myself, and I do have an awareness, or I believe a great awareness about myself, that I think just the thought coming up earlier, it was, how can I run? Where else can I run to? So I know for me, that's why I'm saying now my job is service to others. So I don't necessarily have to go, you know, to somewhere else. So, but I know exactly like the feeling when it came in, I was like, okay, maybe I could just do that. I was like, nope, Carol, you're not running. Yeah. So yeah.
But that is, I feel like it's so true.
But you can tune into that about yourself if you allow yourself time with yourself, silence, and, you know, get to know yourself and your own energy that we always share with all our clients all the time, because we really, I think a lot of us do run from ourselves, run from our own energy, run from thinking that, how are we going to know what we need? Like, no, you could tell me what I need, because I'll never figure that out. And we really, truly have all the answers ourselves. And so that's why I think so clearly I could go back to that feeling and be like, nope, unfortunately, I would be running. So, so for me, that's a no.
I just want to tie it back to the beginning of the conversation and just bringing in the perspective for wherever you're at right now, that as much as it does seem like things are falling apart and things won't stop happening and what else could happen, like all of these things, when life just keeps going, we never see it in the midst of it. Like, you probably didn't know how powerful and life changing the stroke was going to be when all you could focus on was your pounding head and the fact that you can't, see or whatever. But there always comes a time when you are able to see a different perspective and a different light from a situation that happened, if you're open and willing. Like, that other perspective or bringing in gratitude is always there. It's always gonna be there when you're ready for it, when you're open for it. And the amount of time it takes is completely up to you, and there's nothing wrong with the amount of time it takes, but I feel like it helps us get through the space that we're in now, if you can connect to that. Well, I'm not grateful for this experience now, but I sure hope in a couple of years I'll be able to look back and see how everything had to fall together, even though it seemed like it was falling apart.
And when I was meditating this morning, I listened to a guided one, and they had us bring in gratitude for something. And my mind immediately was like, well, I'm not grateful for anything right now. And just for a second, I was like, well, this one's going to be tough. And then immediately, my kids too, of course, but my grandson, who I babysit every Monday, of course, my children too, but my grandson, he is just pure light, pure happiness, pure joy. Like, you can't even be in your head, or you can't even be upset, because he's so darn happy and exploratory and explorative. And he's just, he's straight from spirit world. So energetically, it's just, yeah. So when I was meditating this morning and I saw his face, and I just smiled right away. So why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like we all have things, obviously, to be grateful for. And I have a whole list. I have way more than just my grandson. But sometimes you just need that one thing. Like, you don't have to have a list. You don't have to, rack your brain or diminish the things that you're not grateful for. But just sometimes holding on to that one thing. And I've heard it in other meditations and other workshops I've gone to, and they put you on a beach and they tell you to, pull in your favorite this or that and all that stuff. And like we've shared before, and some of it's the feeling. So, I saw his face, and then the feeling, how it brings me so much joy, like seeing him so happy and so inquisitive and all of that. And so.
Yeah. So I feel like that was a beautiful conversation. You guys can let us know how you felt listening to this, if anything resonated with you. And just remember we always talk about the duality, like, life isn't going to stop. Life is going to keep going, but you are good. Think about your life over the last how many years? How many times has something come up where you thought it was the end, you weren't going to make it through, whether it was the loss of a loved one or a job loss or something very significant. And now, you're still standing, you're still here. And there's so many other things that have transpired within that time as well that you are able to be grateful for and see. So just trying to see that even if you don't see it now, there's always that potential, like I was saying, that perspective of gratitude is always there to see eventually why things had to happen the way that they are. Even if they didn't have to happen, but it still did your soul better looking back. So